Hello BookTube, it's Ros and
Steve. I've been allowed out for my annual Faulkner event BookTube experience, so nice to see you all again.
yes, because it's August and it's Faulkner in August, and which Steve joins in with, and and because it's really great sometimes to be able to have a conversation about a book that is complex, confusing and intriguing. So thank you for this.
Do my best.
And the book we're reading this year is Sanctuary, William Faulkner's novel that he wrote, was published in 1931. And just to give the Faulkner in August intro, just to say the hosts are Brian of Bookish, Alan of Big Hard Books and Classics, and Union Krypto of the Codex Cantina, and myself. And we're reading a quarter of the book each week, so it's relatively quick to read, so it's not too late to join in if you were so inclined, because we've only read the first quarter. Well,
Indeed.
Where do we go from here? This is not like last year's Faulkner. Let's say that for a start.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't start with the stream of consciousness from someone who's got learning difficulties, I think. So that's, that's quite a big difference. So it's much more immediate, I guess, in terms of getting into it. Although it's, as with all Faulkner, I think it's quite dark. In fact, very dark, I would say.
Very dark. Very. I think the key thing to know about this book is that it is dark, dark and full of a dark, dangerous atmosphere of simmering potential for violence.
And also, I think, Faulkner's sort of cynicism and misanthropy.
Yes.
In general, I don't think he was a happy chap, and he didn't see the world as being a particularly happy or joyous place.
No.
A lot of the time, and it's certainly reflected, I think, in the first quarter of this book.
Yes, absolutely. And but it does have sort of, I suppose, themes that connect with the books we've read previously in Faulkner in August, and that I from my limited knowledge seem to run through Faulkner's work, in that it's set in the same fictional county that the majority of his books are set, and there's a feeling of something about the decline of the South, of Southern American society that imbues it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's written 70 years after probably 60 years after the end of the Civil War. I think it's very much he's very much looking at what he feels has been lost. One of the central images of this book, certainly this first quarter, is of a big decayed, ruined mansion, which I think, if we're looking at it on a symbolic level, speaks for a lot.
And this mansion was grand. Would have been sustained by slavery, and that's kind of unspoken. Faulkner doesn't talk about that really in
not explicit,
in this certainly. And it's fallen into disrepair, and it's now the people living there is like squatting there in effect and using it for nefarious purposes. So it's it couldn't be more of a metaphor, I suppose, for a society that he feels is slightly sort of going to the dogs. Yeah.
So it's full of bootleggers making illicit moonshine. Although I think you were saying the other day that that was not an uncommon thing. Even before and after Prohibition, for people to make their own spirits for consumption, which possibly is a fundamental right enshrined in the Constitution somewhere. But no, it isn't.
No, it isn't, because you can tax it. Then so the thing that was striking to me about this book compared with, say, what was last year's one called? What's it called? The Sound of the Fury. The Sound of the Fury.
Power and Glory, Sound of the Fury.
The Sound of the Fury is that, I'm sort of schooled now to think of Faulkner as a modernist writer, which he is, And The Sound and the Fury it's very notable for its structure. That you're kind of hearing the same story through different perspectives, and with time shifts, and it's very non-linear. And the first 8 chapters in this, and this may change. The first 8 chapters in this are linear in the sense, that they're chronological. What they aren't, though, is a sort of standard narration of events. It's very, the very first that you dropped right into things at the beginning. So the first line is, "From behind the screen of bushes which surrounded the spring, Popeye watched the man drinking." So there's already concealment, and suddenly, a character sort of dropped on you.
Yeah, well, you come into the middle of a story and you work both ways, I guess. So,
yeah.
So how do these two people get there, and then where do they go from that?
Who are they? How will they matter in the story?
But there's a lot less internal monologue or sort of stream of consciousness going on in this so far.
Yes, no, this is very much like you see things, you see that things happen, you see actions and events. And little bits of dialogue. You don't get any. You have to work out from that what people are thinking and what's going on.
It's reported, isn't it? So it's basically it's like you're observing, and you have to create your own meaning, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But there's no explanation. There's no omniscient narrator filling in the gaps for you. You're constantly just dropped into scenes, and the first few chapters jump from location and sort of characters. One thing that I should say that there is a Voxer group for this read along, which is still open for people to join. And one of the things that I raised in the group and other people kind of identified with, I think, is that it's very cinematic. This book, and would do you see that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, again, we were discussing just now that one of the things that sort of came to me and has been raised is about the overlap or the influence on David Lynch and Lynch's films of this kind of slightly surreal, symbolic, very symbolic sort of episodic way of doing things.
Yes,
and lots of characters. Yeah.
Yes, but it's full of, like, you sort of dropped in a scene. You he's brilliant at conjuring up the physical kind of picture of what it looks like. You get textures and materials and so on. So you get something that's very visual, with actors moving around in it. And on almost like jump cuts, and then you're on to the next scene, and lots of sort of entrances and exits, and then so it's like a series of scenes, I guess, is how.
And I think that's designed to be unsettling.
Yes.
I think that it's very much is designed to unsettle you as a reader and to create a sense of foreboding.
Yeah.
Which is very right from that opening sentence. Really, there is a sense of foreboding. What is going to happen?
Why is someone hiding and watching the other person? What Yes.
So it's a very unsettling book, I think.
And that's where I think I'm not immediately besotted with this book in the way that I was with Light in August or As I Lay Dying or
The Power and Glory.
It's not The Power and the Glory, The Sound and the Fury, but where you kind of see the quality, as it were, is around that capacity to create a really charged emotional atmosphere and that sense of foreboding and unsettlement. Yes, that Faulkner does through little details and little he doesn't tell you all be scared here. He builds it. Yeah. So that's the first 8 chapters. I think we're starting to see who are the characters that matter. He brings in an awful lot of
Yeah.
different people, and you're thinking, who are they? What's their relationship with each other? Which one do I need to latch onto or start to understand? And I think that's starting to fall into place. Equally, I think the story is about to really spiral off into melodrama, is my suspicion.
I mean, he did say that he wrote it as a potboiler in order to make money. Although I think that's possibly
bit disingenuous.
Bit disingenuous because he's far too good a writer for that to be there. Although, you always need money, don't you?
Yeah, and I think, in some ways he doesn't make a lot of concessions to a reader, and as I say, you get you're just dropped in things all the time. You don't get explanation, but on the other hand, it is more accessible perhaps than some of his other books. It's very readable. You read one chapter and you want to get on to the next one.
Yeah.
There's a sort of driving sense of story developing, even if you don't quite understand it or it's not explicit.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to sort of see where it fits in with what else was going on in American literature at the time. I was just suddenly thinking about Raymond Chandler, or that may have been a bit later. But
we should have a look before next week.
Indeed.
Yeah. So or you lovely BookTube watchers, you can tell us what we ought to know in the comments, and we'll see you next week, having read the second quarter, so halfway through the book. Bye.